This is Homer Simpson, nuclear safety inspector, same job for 30-odd seasons. And this is also Homer Simpson, an astronaut, a blackjack dealer, a chief of police. Homer had so many jobs that the show lost count. So today we're looking at the biggest, the strangest, and the ones you'll never forget he had. Let's start where he always ends up. Homer has held this job since early in season 1, Sector 7G, surrounded by radioactive material, with the fate of Springfield resting in his hands. For more than 30 seasons, his default title has returned to the same 3 words, nuclear safety inspector. And in an early episode called Homer's Odyssey, we actually see how he landed that title in the first place. It starts with him getting fired. Bart's class is touring the plant with Smithers when Homer spots them from his work cart. He looks up to wave at Bart, stops watching where he is going, and drives straight into a pipe connected to the reactor.
Oh, hi, boy!
All right, who's responsible for this?
The floor supervisor catches him and fires him immediately. Homer hits rock bottom. He cannot find other work. He is humiliated in front of his family, and he sinks so low that he decides to end it all, tying a boulder to himself so he can jump from a bridge. A speeding car nearly hits Homer on the way there. Then his family discovers his note and follows him to the bridge, where they are almost hit by another vehicle. Homer saves them just in time, looks at the dangerous intersection, and realizes it needs a stop sign. Suddenly, he has a new purpose. He starts campaigning for stop signs, warning signs, speed limits, and speed bumps across Springfield. For the first time in his life, he becomes a beloved local hero, and even his children are proud of him. Then he sets his sights on the biggest danger of all and leads a crowd marching on the power plant. Coming from the man who caused the accident, that is Rich. Burns tries to silence him by offering him a new position and a raise.
I want you to be in charge of safety here at the plant.
But sir, if truth be known, I actually caused more accidents around here than any other employee.
Homer accepts, but Burns immediately orders him to step onto the balcony and tell the protesters that the plant is safe. Homer cannot do it. He returns to Burns, refuses to lie, and promises to continue his safety crusade. Instead of withdrawing the offer, Burns is impressed enough by Homer's determination to let him keep the job anyway. That is the desk Homer keeps returning to for the next 3 decades. His most stable job is also the one he is least qualified to hold. The plant is the job Homer can never escape, but one of the most successful times he bet on himself outside the plant, he created the most famous small business in Springfield, Mr. Plow. It begins during a brutal snowstorm. Homer wrecks his own car, then wrecks Marge's station wagon while trying to get home. While shopping for a replacement at the Springfield Auto Show, he is talked into buying a $20,000 snowplow. The salesman points out that the truck could pay for itself if Homer used it to plow driveways, and a business is born. Homer gets the jacket, the truck, the phone number, and a collection of failed advertising ideas. Then Lisa suggests buying cheap airtime on Channel 92, where the family films a ridiculous late-night commercial complete with the unforgettable Mr. Plow jingle.
So remember, call Mr. Plow. That's my name. That name again is Mr. Plow.
And it works. The business booms. Homer makes money, earns respect, and genuinely helps dig the town out. Moe gives him a free beer, and Mayor Quimby awards him the key to the city for helping people travel without using public transportation or carpooling. Then his best friend Barney sees how well Homer is doing and starts a rival service, the Plow King. Barney has a larger truck and a slick commercial featuring Linda Ronstadt. He steals Homer's customers, and Quimby even takes the key to the city away from Homer and tries to give it to Barney. Desperate to win his customers back, Homer calls Barney with a fake $10,000 plowing job at the top of Widow's Peak. While Barney drives toward the mountain, Homer reclaims the customers Barney left behind. But a news report reveals that an avalanche has buried Barney, and Homer realizes how badly his scheme has gone wrong. Homer drives up Widow's Peak and rescues him. The two reconcile and agree to become partners, boasting that when two best friends work together, not even God can stop them. God apparently takes that as a challenge. The sun comes out, every bit of snow melts, and the business disappears overnight. With no more plowing jobs and no way to make the payments, Homer's truck is repossessed. Mr. Plow ends with Homer losing the business but getting his best friend back. Mr. Plow was Homer chasing glory, but the one job he genuinely loved was not a business at all. And the reason you might not remember it is the entire point of the story. In And Maggie Makes 3, Bart and Lisa ask why there are no baby pictures of Maggie in the family photo album. Homer answers by taking the story back to a time when he finally paid off his debts and gained enough financial freedom to quit the power plant.
Did you hear me? I said I quit, Monty. And since I quit, I can do anything I want.
Moves a glass off its coaster, empties Burns' wastebasket, plays Burns' head like bongos, and throws him off the work cart on the way out. Then Homer literally burns a bridge as he leaves the plant and walks into his dream job at Barney's Bowl-O-Rama, a pin monkey. For a while, it is paradise. The pay is much lower than his plant salary, and the family can only get by if nothing changes. But Homer has genuinely never never been happier. He enjoys the bowling alley atmosphere, gets along with the customers, and finally has work that suits him. But something has already changed. Marge is pregnant. She tries to keep it from Homer because she knows the bowling alley salary cannot support another child. But Patty and Selma spread the news across Springfield. Even after Moe directly congratulates Homer for getting Marge pregnant, Homer thinks everyone is talking about his new job. He finally comes home to find a baby shower. Homer sees the tiny baby-sized gifts but still fails to understand. Then Maude Flanders casually congratulates him on his new job.
New job? Marge is pregnant? No!
And that strangely timed comment finally makes everything click. Marge is pregnant. Homer fights to keep the job he loves. Marge suggests asking his boss, Al, for a raise. Al says Homer is a hard worker but can only receive more money if he triples the alley's business. Homer studies marketing, beginning with advanced marketing, downgrading to basic marketing, and finally reaching for a dictionary to learn what marketing means. His grand solution is to stand outside the alley, firing a shotgun into the air and shouting at people to come bowling. His marketing plan fails, and the one job he loves cannot support his growing family. Homer quits and goes crawling back to the power plant. Burns gives him his old job, but punishes him by mounting a demotivational plaque at his workstation that reads, "Don't forget, you're here forever." Then comes one of the most beloved endings in the show's history. Homer explains that Maggie's baby photos are not missing. He keeps them where he needs the most cheering up. At his workstation, the photos cover the plaque so that the remaining letters read, "Do it for her, the job Homer loved, given up for the family he loved more." It may be the most quietly heroic thing he has ever done. That was the smallest, most grounded Homer ever got. So let us go in the opposite direction, about as far from a bowling alley as it is physically possible to get, because an average factory worker from Springfield became an astronaut. NASA is humiliated by collapsing interest in its space launches. The television ratings have become so low that one launch is beaten by A Connie Chung Christmas. So NASA decides to rebuild public interest by sending an ordinary, relatable American into space. After Homer calls NASA to complain about the boring launch coverage, two NASA employees trace the call to Moe's Tavern. Homer initially blames Barney, so NASA takes both men as potential candidates. Once alcohol is removed from his life, Barney becomes disciplined, articulate, and clearly the better astronaut. Barney wins the competition, but at the celebration he drinks genuinely non-alcoholic champagne and somehow instantly reverts to his chaotic, drunken self. He steals a jetpack, injures himself, and loses his place. Homer is selected by default.
I guess you're the winner by default.
Default! Woohoo! The two sweetest words in the English language.
Homer goes into space alongside real-life moonwalker Buzz Aldrin and veteran astronaut Race Banyan. Once in orbit, he reveals a bag of potato chips that he secretly brought aboard. He opens it in zero gravity and sends the chips drifting toward the instruments. Homer unbuckles himself and chases the chips with his mouth. His head crashes into the experimental ant colony, shattering it and releasing the ants throughout the cabin.
You fool! Now we may never know if ants can be trained to sort tiny screws in space.
That triggers one of the most quoted moments in the show's history. News anchor Kent Brockman sees a floating ant on the camera feed, mistakes it for a giant alien invader, and announces that he welcomes our new insect overlords.
And I, for one, welcome our new insect overlords. I can be helpful in rounding up others to toil in their underground sugar caves.
The ants begin shorting out the shuttle's navigation system. NASA decides to open the front hatch and vent them into space, but Homer has forgotten to attach his safety belt. He is nearly sucked out and survives by grabbing the hatch handle, which eventually snaps under the strain. With the hatch unable to close, the shuttle could burn up during re-entry. Race Banyan threatens Homer, so Homer tears a support rod from the wall and tries to attack him with it. The rod accidentally becomes lodged in the hatch and seals it tightly enough for the shuttle to survive. Buzz Aldrin calls Homer the real hero, but the press focuses on the inanimate carbon rod. It receives a Time magazine cover and its own parade, leaving Homer upstaged by an object for the second time in the episode.
Stupid rod.
Space was the impossible job. This next one was simply dangerous. A real position with real training. In Married to the Mob, the Simpsons attend the Baimon Sci-Fi Con, where Mark Hamill appears as a special guest. When Hamill's appearance triggers a riot, Homer fights through the crowd and rescues both Hamill and Mayor Quimby. Quimby fires his useless bodyguards and hires Homer as his replacement. Homer enrolls at Leavell's Bodyguard Academy, where a grizzled instructor trains him to protect a client. For once, Homer takes his new responsibilities seriously.
These melons represent your protectees. Throughout this course, you will protect your personal melon as if it was paying your salary.
What?
The job becomes much more dangerous when Homer discovers that Fat Tony's organization is supplying Springfield Elementary with rat milk. Quimby had accepted a kickback for milk that was supposed to be dog milk or better. Homer confronts Quimby and accidentally knocks him through a window, then refuses to pull him to safety until the mayor promises to end the deal. The police raid Fat Tony's operation, and Fat Tony openly threatens Quimby's life. After making bail, Fat Tony and his men attend a dinner theater production of Guys and Dolls, where Mark Hamill is playing Nathan Detroit. Homer brings Quimby to the same performance, hoping it will help him forget about the mob. Fat Tony orders Louie to kill the mayor. Louie approaches with a knife, but Hamill tells Homer to use the forks. Homer pins Louie's tie to the table and believes he has saved the day. While Homer celebrates and makes a heroic speech, Fat Tony beats Quimby senseless with a baseball bat. The mayor is rushed to the hospital. Homer may have stopped Louie, but he failed to notice the most obvious threat in the room. Hamill reassures Homer that Quimby will survive and tells him he would make a great bodyguard. Then Homer carries Hamill through another crowd of autograph-seeking fans and paparazzi, while Whitney Houston's version of I Will Always Love You plays, completing the episode's parody of The Bodyguard. Homer could not completely protect the mayor, saving Mark Hamill though, that he can do, but in one of his most successful jobs, he broke the law himself. This is Homer versus the 18th Amendment. It begins on St. Patrick's Day. A Duff parade float sprays free beer into the crowd, and Bart accidentally catches it in a novelty horn and drinks it. When his drunken behavior appears on live television, Springfield is scandalized.
You can't seriously want to ban alcohol. It tastes great. Makes women appear more attractive.
The town discovers a 200-year-old prohibition law that has never been enforced. Everyone assumes it is still valid, so alcohol is banned across Springfield. The mafia initially supplies the town, while Chief Wiggum accepts bribes and is caught drinking at a speakeasy. The city's temperance campaigners demand a replacement, and U.S. Treasury agent Rex Banner arrives to enforce the law and take over as police chief. Banner eliminates Springfield's remaining alcohol supply. Homer responds by recovering the beer barrels that were buried at the city dump and becoming the mysterious Beer Baron. His delivery system is genuinely clever. Homer pours beer into hollow bowling balls and deliberately throws gutter balls at the operating Bowlerama. The balls enter an elaborate pipe system that carries them directly to Moe's Tavern, where Moe removes the beer and sends the payment back inside the same balls. Rex Banner investigates but cannot identify the Beer Baron. Homer eventually runs out of buried beer and begins manufacturing hard liquor in 42 bathtubs. The operation becomes increasingly dangerous, and after another explosion leaves Homer on fire, Marge persuades him to quit. Homer then finds the disgraced Wiggum struggling to survive. Feeling sorry for him, Homer deliberately allows Wiggum to expose the Beer Baron's operation and arrest him, hoping the capture will restore Wiggum's reputation. Homer expects a minor punishment, but the ancient law calls for violators to be launched from a catapult. As Marge argues that the punishment is ridiculous, Rex Banner insists that citizens cannot choose which laws to obey. Banner accidentally steps into the catapult, and Wiggum orders Eddie to launch him out of Springfield. Then the town clerk reads the rest of the document and discovers that the prohibition law was repealed 199 years earlier. Homer is released. Fat Tony restores Springfield's alcohol supply within minutes, and the town immediately returns to drinking. Of all Homer's businesses and disasters, his most competent professional achievement may have been being a criminal. He was a better bootlegger than he ever was a safety inspector. Alright, your turn. Drop it in the comments. Which of these was the best job Homer ever had, and which one would you actually take? If you want more Simpsons deep dives like this one, hit subscribe.